Right. Thank you so much for joining today's class and welcome to day three in our discussion on the SC200 security operation analyst. And the last week that we met, we were able to discuss incidents, managing incidents, and we look at a bit of alerts. And we said that an incident in Microsoft Defender XDR is a collection of correlated alerts and associated data that makes up the story of the attack. And from there, we're able to look at some, we're able to go into the portal to investigate the incident where we're able to demo, to see alerts, to see if a device is affected, to see if a particular mailbox is also affected, as well as we're able to see if a user or app, then we look at evidence. From there, we're able to look at attack histories and attack stories. Then the graph, how it shows us the stories behind the alerts. So today, we'll be looking at working with automated alert destruction. Before we talk about this automated alert destruction, the attack destruction, I would like to point us to the fact that we have for our incident management for alerts, which is actually part of the incident management. It's actually very good for us to check one or two things around the alerts again, since we are able to extensively dwell more on the incidents. Now, for alerts management, you can manage alerts by selecting an alert in the alert queue or the alert tab of the device page, either for an individual device or by selecting an alert in either of those places. It will bring up all the alerts and management pane. So what is the alert management pane? What does it look like? Let me go into our portal so we can quickly check that out. Let me sign in and put that up. So I'm currently signing into the Microsoft Office 365. Let's go to the admin center. So from the admin center, we will navigate to the Microsoft Defender portal by clicking on show all there to see all other admin center, then security with the first one under the list of the admin center. So for alert management, basically you can view and set metadata about the alert preview or the alert detail page. So if you go to our incidents and response and go to incidents and alerts, go to alert here. So that's we'll be able to look at incidents. So we're able to see different alerts based on severity. We have alert that is medium. We have the one that is high, another high, and another high here. Now, if you select any of the alerts, so let me select this anonymous IP, for example, and click on manage alerts. So when you select this, you notice before now, you're able to see just the tab to export the alerts, then how long the time range, 1 week, you can set it for 30 days. And if you've had a series of alerts for the last 30 days, you're going to actually, see that. Let me set it for 6 months as well. Even that will actually show for us. So for 6 months, so you're able to, change the range of the alert you want to see. Maybe you just want to see the alert for the last 30 days, the alert for the last 60 days, 6 months, the alert for 1 week, 3 days, and 1 day. So we can see that there is this an informational alert here, email message remove after delivery. So this is one alert that I think I've not seen a set until now. So we're able to see even the MITRE ATT&CK technique that we use. Let's go back to the alerts and take it to 30 days, for example. So another thing you can see here is this alert service settings. Now, if you click on the alert service settings, it's going to take you to a portal which is still on the Microsoft Defender XDR. So for the alert service settings, now it tells that you can turn off alerts from listed services. You can turn them off, or alerts from the service no longer appear within the incident or in the alert queue. So for Microsoft Entra ID protection now, it's telling me that I should choose which identity protection alerts will appear in the alerts and incident page. So by default now, it is the high impact alert only that was selected. So if I want the alert to include other alerts, things around activity that might not constitute unwanted malicious activity, if I set it here, I'll be able to see more details, things I can enable. Like it tells me that I want to enable all Entra ID protection. So this tells me I'm about to change the alert settings for the service source. So, okay, I say provide the reason why you want to enable all alerts. Okay, we are monitoring all Microsoft Entra ID protection alerts. We're using these alerts to enrich existing incidents. We have automation rules that uses these alerts in the Defender API, or we want to create custom detection rule based on Entra ID protection. So you're able to, basically change what the alert service settings rule that you want. So I say, let me show that to you because I'm not sure that we looked at that the last time. Okay, let's go back to alert. Okay, so if you select any of the alerts, so let me select this alert again. So I have linked to either I want to manage the alert. So in managing the alert, I have the option for the status for the alert. Is it a new alert? Is it resolved or in progress? I'm able to change the status based on what has been done regarding that alert. Then I also have option to assign the alert. So last week we saw that we could assign an incident, and when you assign an incident, what happens is that automatically all the associated alerts, regarding that particular incident, will be um, assigned to the same engineer that you've assigned that incident to. But at the more granular level, you have the option to just assign just the alerts instead of the incidents. Maybe there's a particular alert, like I mentioned, that you feel that the particular engineer is very conversant or familiar with, then you can just assign the alert to that particular user. Let me look for a user in my organization and assign that alert to. Then I have also the option to classify the alert. Is it a true positive alert? That means that there is indeed a malicious user activity. If I'm sure that this alert is truly a true positive, there was a malicious user activity, then I can leave it. But I feel that it is not a true positive, maybe it's a false negative now, that it is not malicious. I was able to reveal it and I feel that it is not malicious. I can change the classification here. What that does automatically is that the Microsoft Threat Intelligence, the machine learning, the AI that is working behind the scene for the Microsoft Defender, is automatically updated that when you see this kind of behavior, always mark it as not malicious. But because I'm sure it's a malicious user activity, I'm going to leave it. And if I'm going to change it, I have the option to add comments. So if it's an alert that as a SOC engineer, SOC analyst has worked on, I can put in a comment, okay, this alert, this is a current investigation that is currently happening regarding this alert, okay, or these are the findings after revealing the alerts, I'm able to do that. Then once I'm done with everything, then I can click on save. Yeah. So these alerts will automatically be assigned to the user, and the user will receive an email notification that there is an alert that has been assigned to him or her, and the user will be able to, investigate the alert. So that's the then if I want to link the alert to another incident, if I click on link to another incident, for example now, so it is either I create a new incident, or I say click to an existing incident. So I have two options here. Here I search for the incident name, or I know the incident ID. So if I have a particular incident that I want to assign this alert to, let me call it so these are different incident based on what I have, the multi-stage incidents, the anonymous IP going on users. I can link the alerts to that particular incident, and from there, I'll be able to do justice to the alerts, basically. Just 1 second. All right, so I don't want to link Kirby. Let me see if I select these, then I put in a comment, this alert. So I say, oh, the reason why I'm linking this alert to an existing incident is, okay, this alert is actually related. So you see that the save body be enabled. If this is not there, this is grayed out for you. You're not able to change it. So you must put a comment. That's what Microsoft is saying. You must put a comment to really show that that particular alert, the reason why you're linking it to another incident. Then for these as well, just put a comment. I would like to create a new incident. I like to create a new incident. Then click on save. Let's close this. Let's go back to the incident. Refresh this page. So the alert was part of this particular alert before. I'm trying to look at the new incident that's created for me. Trying to see, let me compare. This was one that we worked on last week. This is the one I assigned to myself. Check. Okay, I think this is the alert here. So it's created a new incident with that particular alert name. So if you notice this, if I go back to this incident, this was actually an incident. You can see the incident ID here, but it's jumped up because I just edited it. I just updated it now. You can see, just updated it now, so it came up. So it's created as a fresh incident itself. So if I go to the alert here, still be part of our alert here, but it's not having its own incident, which is a malicious IP address. Now for our alerts generally, we have several severity level for alerts. Like we mentioned here, we have the high, the medium, we have the low. So for high alerts, for example, now alerts commonly seen associated with advanced persistent threats, call them APT. So this alert indicates a high risk because of the severity of the damage they can inflict on devices. Examples of such alerts include credential theft, tools activity, if you have a ransomware activity that is not associated with any group, or if you are tampering with security sensor in your organization, or any malicious activity indicative of a human adversary. So any of those alerts from these examples will be marked as high severity. Then for medium, you see that this is like hot red, and this is looking more or less like orange. For the medium, right, what happened is that these are basically alerts from endpoint detection and response that are as a result of post-breach behavior that might be a part of an advanced persistent threat. And they include observed behaviors that are typical of attack stages or anomalous registry change or even execution of suspicious files and so forth. Although some might be part of internal security testing, still requires an investigation as it must also be a part of an advanced attack. So for this medium alert generally now, you have to look at it's actually typical behavior of an attack stage majorly. Then currently we don't have any alert that is marked low here, but for alerts that are actually marked low, if I click on hard here, I'll be able to see the filter. So you see the alert low here, it has more or less like one bar of alert. Let me see, I don't currently have an alert there. But basically for alert that is marked low, they are like threats that is associated with a prevalence malware. For example, maybe an ACK2 or a non-malware ACK2, such as that you're running an exploration command, you're trying to clear logs, and it often indicates, they don't indicate an advanced threat targeting the organization. And it could also come from some isolated security tool testing by a user in your organization. So those alerts that are marked low, generally, they not all the time that those alerts are actually by an attacker. It could be like an testing that is happening. Then there is also an alert. If you notice when I move this to 30 days, I have an alert that is actually gray. It is tag informational. So for these alerts, they might not be considered harmful majorly, to the network, but they can drive organizational security awareness on potential issue. So this alert is actually informational, right? Because it's coming from the threat management, which is Microsoft Defender for Office 365. It has to do with an email message. Why? Because it is more or less informational. So what this alert you can use this alert for awareness, about your organizational security and potential security issues majorly. And for generally, Microsoft Defender antivirus, we call it Microsoft Defender AV, and Microsoft Defender for endpoints. Those alerts severities are actually different because they represent a different scope. Now, for example, the Microsoft Defender antivirus threat severity, it represents the absolute severity of the detected malware, and it is assigned based on the potential risks to the individual device if infected. So for those type of alerts that comes from Microsoft Defender for antivirus and Defender for endpoint, majorly they represent the absolute severity. So they because these two are already there, their work is to tackle viruses because they are antivirus. So once they notice that based on the programming of those two, the alert that is actually represents the severity actually represents the absolute severity of the detected threat. And the defender for endpoints alerts severity itself. It also represents the severity of detected behavior and the actual risks to the device, and most importantly, the potential risks to the organizations. So any alert that is classified as this alert, so one of the things that is very important is that you have to look at the detection source. Any alert that is classified as this alert is coming from either Microsoft Defender and antivirus, if the organization uses an antivirus, or Microsoft Defender for endpoint, you have to actually take them very serious because it is what those alerts are saying that those two are actually seeing. For example, the severity of Defender for Endpoint alerts about Microsoft Defender antivirus detects threats that was prevented and didn't invent the device is categorized as informational. So any alert like that, because the device was not infected, it will actually classify it as informational. Why? Because there was no actual damage that was done to that device. But an alert about maybe there's a commercial malware which was detected while executing, but blocked, and it was remediated by the Microsoft Defender antivirus. It is categorized as low because why? It may have caused some damage to the individual device, but it poses no organizational threat. So you have to take note of that. Once you see that the category is Defender for antivirus or Defender for or for endpoint, for example, now you have to check what is the severity of this, and you have to actually prioritize based on the severity. Another example, an alert about a malware detected while executing, which poses a threat not only to the individual device, but to the organization as a whole, regardless if it was eventually blocked. Those kind of alerts may be ranked as either medium or high, depending, because at that point now, the threat is beyond that individual device, but the threat is also to the organization. Even though it has been blocked, you have to take note of that particular alert that you receive for such device, because it will classify as medium or high, depending on how the severity is, because it's affecting or it's going to affect the organization as a whole. Then lastly, suspicious behavioral alerts, which were not blocked or remediated, will be ranked either low or medium or high, following the same organizational threat constitution. So whether or not the thing affected, it didn't affect the device, it will be informational, or it's affected just the device, but it didn't pose threats to the entire organizations. You know, it will classify as a low. Then for I, if it's going to pose a threat to the organization. Now, alerts categories align closely with the attack tactics and the techniques in the MITRE ATT&CK enterprise matrix. Now, it is very important that alert categories also include items like unwanted softwares. Even though those ones are not part of the attack matrix, unwanted software, maybe already in your organizations you have configured policies that these are some of the software that you don't want users to be able to install on their system, and users goes ahead to to install such unwanted software, for example now. So, and those categories also, for example now, in terms of collection, it is very important that you categorize alerts based on locating and collection of data for exfiltration. So that's one category. Then there's another category of alerts that involves command and control. For command and control, it is actually connecting to the attacker control network infrastructure. This one is doing it's doing what we call a relay data, or it's a receiving data. So it's connecting the attacker control network infrastructure to relay data or receive command. So this one is already connected to the attacker. And also for credential access, which is another one. Those one, they obtain valid credential to extend control over devices or any other resources in the network. Those ones focus on credential access. Then for defense evasion, this like is avoiding security control. For example, now there's an alert involving turning off security apps or deleting an implant or running rootkit in your device. So those ones are trying towards defense evasion. Then there's another category called discovery. For discovery, this one is a gathering of information about important devices and resources, such as maybe you're an administrator of your organization, for example. Now, your device, the device that you're using is a very important device. Why? Because an attacker knows that if this device that this user is using, now I'm a global admin in my organization now, that means my device, I have to be very extremely careful with it. Why? Because I have access, global access to different organizations admin center. And with that, once an attacker use discovery gathering information about important devices and resources, and the domain controller, even the file server. So those things are very important. That's why in terms of Windows servers security, one of the things that is advisable is that every organization should have, like for a domain admin, for example, now a global admin should have like 2 laptops. Should have a laptop that is only responsible for work related, which you have your normal corporate organization accounts, send emails to teams. Then to perform administrative duties, they should have another system for that. So it's only that account, that particular that was that domain admin account that is signed into that particular system to perform organization. It's one of the way you can secure your organization, because a lot of people don't know this, that it is actually a security measures for organizations. So in that case now, even if your current device, which is your normal device that you use for your normal communication, has been infected by a bad actor, there is nothing like global access on that particular system. It's just like every other user. But it is only when that one that has domain admin log on to, that one is, attacker attacks it. That's when you not be scared that, oh, this device can access different organization resources. So it's very important to, keep that. Then another category is execution. Now, in execution, what the attacker is doing is that they are launching attacker tools and malicious code, which can include rats and backdoors, right? At the point of execution, they are launching attacker tools. That's what they are focusing, looking for malicious code. That's why I'm always very careful as an administrator. Any code I see in a public space, I ensure that it is tested first for malicious code in between before running that code on the organization network. Then another level is call it exfiltration. Now with exfiltration, it is extracting data from the network to an external attacker control location. So in exfiltration now, the bad actor has already penetrated into the network. What they're now doing is that they are now extracting data, from the corporate network to an external source where they actually control the location. Another category you can categorize all these alerts is exploits. Now for exploit, now they use what we call exploit code and possible exploitation activities to ensure that they are able to go from one part of the network to another part of the network to exploit what are the loopholes that are available, on the network. That's why it's very important for cybersecurity team to always carry out a vulnerability, assessment test to be sure that there is no loopholes in the network. Then another category is a category that we call initial access. Now with initial access, what they are doing is that they are gaining initial entry into the targeted network, which usually involve either password guessing, exploits, or phishing email. So those initial access, the developers are so smart that they look at, okay, let me guess what could be the person's password, or let me try to use the exploit, using the code, such that when the user, that is not educated in terms of security, click on those code, what happens is that the code begins to run and there are possible exploitation. Then they also use the phishing email, either with a safe link or with safe attachment as well. They can use that for initial access. Once the user just do, and the user is not trained, there is no cybersecurity awareness training for the user to educate the user that you don't have to, click on save. Don't click on links except you are sure where the link is taking you to. By first of all, highlighting, just putting your mouse cursor on the link to actually see where the link is going. Especially if the organization does not have a, a Microsoft 365 solution or license to create a safe link or a safe attachment, and they don't have a third party tool that will help them with safe link scanning and also safe attachment scanning. Another category, we call it lateral movements. That is basically moving between devices in the target network so for them to breach a critical resource or gain network persistence. So with lateral movement, the attacker is already in the network. It's moving from one location to another, from one device to another in the network until they get to a particular, device that has admin right? And with that, they'll be able to gain access into the network and cause harm to the network. Then another category for alerts is the malware. Now with the malware, we have the option of having the backdoors, the Trojan, and other types of malicious code. So that's another thing that the bad actor also use the malware using the backdoor. Maybe they create a backdoor in the network where they can come in anytime, go out anytime without even the security team being aware that there is even a backdoor. And again, that is why the vulnerability assessment is very important. Then another category they use is persistence. Now, with persistence, what they do is that they create an auto start extensibility point ASEPs to remain active and survive system restarts. Sometimes I've seen in a data center, right, on the on the server racks. I saw it is just like a joke, something I saw. They put that once there is an attack, in the event of an attack, start pulling out all the network cables from the network, right? Just break the glass and start pulling out all the network cable. Look, the attackers are getting smarter in such a way that even when that is done, the moment you connect back to the network, they want to still be they want to still be in that network active. So whether or not you are restarting the system, you are restarting the routers, you are restarting anything, they want to be persistent. That's like another category. They want to be persistent to create an auto restart extensibility point. That's what that thing does for them. Then another category is privilege escalation. Now with privilege escalation, what they are doing is that they want to obtain higher permissions level for code by running it in the contents of a privilege process for an account. So with the privilege escalation now, they don't just want to run the code. Rather, they want to run the code as a privileged administrator in their account. So they try to target the domain admins, the domain users in the tenant so that they are able to run their code with higher permission. They know that with that account, the account definitely has, especially the domain admin now, has access to companies' resources like the domain controller, which is very critical, and they are able to obtain the higher level of permission. Then another category is a ransomware. So ransomware is just like is actually a malware that encrypts files and extorts payments to restore access. Now ransomware is so common today that when the bad actor they actually introduce the malware into the system, they begin to go into the Microsoft 365 portal, especially to the OneDrive folder. So those sensitive information, they start locking them with password and start demanding that the victim should pay a certain amount of money. Most of the time, even after making payments, because the bad guy has already been created, they'll still go ahead, and run the malware again after paying again. There's the ransomware again that you have to continue paying for. So it's also another category which is actually very important. Another category is suspicious activity. So it's very important as a cybersecurity SOC engineer that you look at what is a typical activity like, or what could be, is this activity a malware activity or a part of an attack? You have to like suspect all suspicious activity because it could be a malware activity or it could be part of an attack. So as a SOC analyst, as a SOC engineer, you have to have that detective mindset and be able to see, okay, this activity that is going on currently now, will it be a part of an attack? The last thing but not the least is I mentioned this unwanted software. So there are a lot of low reputation apps out there, and those apps that can impact productivity and user experience. So with those apps, you can detect potential unwanted applications. So any software that is not, that you're not downloading from the right source or the correct source or the website of the publisher or the vendor, personally, I don't even advise it at all. I don't even advise it at all. So I've mentioned that generally alerts, you can assign the alerts to yourself. Like this alert, for example, now, I can just click on the alerts. Once I click on the alerts, I'll be able to see option to assign the alert here. Once I click on set alert, so I can just search my name, I assign to myself. I can search for another user and assign the alert to the other user as well. Now, there's also what we call suppressed alerts. For suppressed alerts, there might be scenarios where you need to suppress alerts from appearing in the Microsoft Defender Security Center. Now, for example, now Defender for Endpoints lets you create what we call suppression rules for specific alerts, that are known to be innocuous, such as known to or processes in your organizations, right? Now, for the suppression rule, what happens is that you can create it from an existing alert, and they can be disabled or they can also be enabled if needed. I currently don't have any alerts from my Defender for Endpoint now. Let me see if I'll see the suppression rule here. It's not there because this is involving an email. So ideally, when a suppression rule is actually created, it takes effect from the point when the rule is created, and the rule will not affect any existing alert that is already in the queue prior to the rule creation. The rule will only be applied to alerts that actually satisfy the condition set after the rule has been created. And there are two contents for a suppression rule that you can actually choose from. Either suppress alerts on this device or suppress an alert in my organization. And the context of the rule lets you tailor what gets surfaced into the portal and ensure that only real security alerts are actually surfaced in the portal. Let me see if I can see an alert for Defender for Endpoint here. So I don't have any alerts from Defender from Endpoint, although I've been able to show the suppression rule. Then also, just like incidents, the changing of status for alerts, you can categorize alerts as new, in progress, or resolved by actually changing their status as your investigation progresses. And what's happened is that this helps you to organize and manage how your team can respond to alerts. For example, now the team lead of the team for the SOC team can review all the new alerts and decide to assign them to in progress queue for further analysis, right? Or alternatively, the team lead might, assign the alerts to the resolve queue if they know the alert is actually a pending alert or it is coming from an irrelevant device, such as maybe it's a device that is belonging to a security administrator. So maybe they are doing some testing and the alert came from there. So they can move it to a resolve queue, or it is being dealt with through an earlier alert. Maybe there has been an earlier alert that is currently in progress that the team is currently working on. You can just move any subsequent alerts to resolve because you're already, investigating one of the alerts. Now, another thing about alerts is we have the alert classification. Now, with alert classification, you can choose not to set classification or specify whether an alert is true alert or the alert is actually a false alert. And it's actually important to provide the classification of true, positive, or false negative because it is used to monitor the alert quality and it makes more accurate, and it actually makes the alerts more accurate basically. And what determines the field is you define an extra fidelity for a true positive definition basically. Now earlier we saw the alerts in which we are able to click manage alerts and we have the option to classify the alerts. So we have the true positive up here, we have the information out here, and we have the false positive down here. So you can always classify the alerts based on what you think as a SOC analyst is what to think about the alerts. Maybe it's an alert that you think, oh no, this is coming from a device that is it's not accurate, maybe a new device or not. You're able to classify such alerts. Then we have the option for comments. I mentioned this earlier. You can add comments and view historical events about an alert to see previous changes that has been made to the alert. So whenever there's change or comment is made to an alert, it is recorded in the comments and the history section, and any added comments instantly appear in the pane. So if there has been a comment on this particular alert, for example, maybe something was changed here, I put a comment here. Once there's any changes, right, the comments instantly appear in the pane that just open. Now, one important aspect of the alert is actually investigating the alert, right? So for alert investigation, the in order to investigate alerts, alerts that are affecting your network, it is very important to understand what they mean and also how to resolve them. It's very important. So for example, if you select an alert from the alert queue to go to the alert page, what the views does is that it contains the title, the affected assets, the detailed side panel, and also the alert story. We'll click on this, for example, now we'll be able to see things around the alert. So one thing we can see is the affected users, the IP itself, because this alert is speaking to an anonymous IP. Then what is the story about the alert? So it tells me what happened, just like for incidents as well. Then the timeline, the risky events that happens, we're able to see that. Then if you scroll down, you'll be able to see again the IP address. We saw this last week, then the sign-in location and also the sign-in request ID, the date and time that the alert also happened here. Then we went to view detail page in the intra identity protection where we're able to see the detail of what happened. Then for the managing of alerts here, so we mentioned that if you click on this manage alerts, it brings us back to this page, the same thing that we saw up there. Then we could link this, which we also mentioned. Then this talk about the classification of the alerts, setting is it true positive or true negative. Then why this talk about which user is the alert assigned to. You can see the user's ID here. But if I click on this, I can decide, okay, let me change this user to another user. Let me call the user. Let me assign to Michael 12 and let me put a comment. Assign to Michael for investigation. We click on save. So we have the alerts updated successfully. So we'll be able to see who the alerts access to. Now for alert detail here, which is where I was going. For alert detail, we are able to see the category of the alert, which is initial access. We are also able to see, is there any MITRE attack technique here? So you put a dash there to show that there is no MITRE attack technique that actually uses this particular alert. Then detection sucks up the alert, which is the Azure Active Directory Identity Protection. Then the service source, which is the identity protection. So when it was generated, the first activity of the alert, the last activity of the alert. So you just tell me that this alert was generated this, and this was when it was the first activity and the last activity. Then for evidence now, it talks about the entity name, so which is the IP itself. So if it was device now, you see things around it is the device name you're going to see here. That's what to see. You see the device there. And the remediation status, which is embedded here. Now if you go down, so it tells me the alert description. It's saying there's a sign for anonymous IP, e.g. a Tor browser or anonymizer VPN. Yeah, so this alert was actually generated from a Tor browser because I was signing in with my account with a Tor browser, and then I was able to generate that alert. Then it tells me that the incident that this alert is associated to. So it gives me the link directly to the incident. So as I click on this, it take me to the link of this particular alert, and it tells me the severity of the incident, which is actually high. Then here, if I come down, I'm able to see other details around how many alerts. So this is the second of the two alerts for that particular incident. Is there any device affected? No device. How many users are affected with this particular alert? One. Is there any mailbox? No. Mobile apps? No. So if I go now, I'm able to see other linked device. So you said this is linked by the same user credential, the same request ID. So I'm able to see that Then for imparted assets now, it's giving me a list. So the only asset is the user. So just the same thing I can see here is a user. So it's giving me a view that, okay, this is the user. So if there are multiple users, like, it's going to give me the list of all the users that are affected. So if I have any additional comments, right, I can put the comments here. Now it's mentioned that the details page also, shows the further information, right? When it shows the further information, so I will see all the histories on this alert here, all the histories of the alerts, under the alert story. What are they? I see the alert is linked to incident 3, it tells me all the history, everything that has happened on this alert. So I'm able to review this and see, what is currently happening, who is currently working on this issue, at what stage is this alert, and what is currently happening with this alert. So that's everything about alerts. Now, alerts investigation, you can actually investigate by using what we call the alert story. So I said that the alert story detailed why the alert was triggered. Then also, are there any related events that happened before and after, or any other related entity? So the only entity for this particular alert here is this user. That's what you're able to see. Now, it's mentioned something like, if you look at this entity, they are actually clickable, right? And every entity that receives an alert is also expandable using the expand icon. So if I drop this down now, I'm able to see the embedded item there. Then I'm able to also click this also, right? This will give me, more details about the entities that is affected. Now the entities are clickable, and every entity that isn't an alert is also expandable using an expand icon on the right side of the entity card, and the entity in focus will be indicated by a blue stripes to the left side of the entity card. Yeah, and with the alert, what happens is that the title will be the focus first. So the title of the alert is always the focus. Okay, this tells me things about the user that was affected, right? Tells me these are affected. Are there any policy like conditional access policy that has actually been created for this user? So if this user is truly compromised now, after investigation, I can click on this to confirm that this user is compromised. So what happened that any conditional access policy that has been created for this user will trigger immediately. So if the user has access to some enterprise applications or some enterprise resources generally, the user will not be able to access those resources. Then if I want to suspend the user in enterprise, I can click on this option there to suspend the user. So there are other things I can see that I can do to this user. For example, now I want to require user to sign in again. So I can check that, okay, I notice that, oh, something is going wrong with this user based on this alert. Let me require user to sign in again. Maybe I wasn't sure. Maybe the users has been compromised, meaning that maybe the bad actor gain access to the user accounts through guessing the username and the password. And from there, the user maybe multi-factor authentication is not configured for the user, and the user has really been compromised. So I want to be sure. I can request user to sign in again. What this will do is that it's going to sign user out of every session that user is currently signing. So if truly that the user was compromised, of course, the bad actor already have the password. So one of the best things to is to actually go into the Entra ID settings for this user, which you take me to the Azure, where I'll be able to see some of the settings, right? I'll be able to see some of the settings for the user. And with those settings, I'll be able to, okay, what do I want to do for this user? Do I want to block signing? Do I want to do anything for this user at all? Okay, do I want to disable the user account or any other thing I want to do with the Entra ID? I'll be able to, do that for the user. So these are other options. Okay, I want to view related governance, or I want to view related activities. So this is still going to take me to cloud apps, Microsoft Defender Cloud Apps. So once it's open, so it's the same place it's taking me to. That are open, so we can see related activities for this. So this takes me to the activity logs under the cloud apps here. So take into the, so if there are any other related activity for that user, I'll be able to see that. When we discuss Defender for Cloud Apps, we'll be able to talk more about that. Then also, is there any related governance? If I click on this related governance to take me to the governance folder, where I'll be able to see that still under the Cloud Apps. So the governance log, so if there's any governance related things for the app, I'll be able to see that as well. All right, so these are other things that you can actually play out. And we have maybe you want to view one files, you want to view files that are shared with these users, or view related incident. Maybe you suspect that this account is actually compromised. You want to say, okay, the bad actors, what are the things the bad actors did with these users? You want to say, okay, what are some of the files shared with this user now, for example, now? So this will take us to the cloud application as well. So from the cloud applications, we're able to see, okay, these are some of the files that after the account was compromised, Defender for Cloud Apps will be able to help us to monitor, right? Yeah, it's not actually enabled. So by the time we get here, we enable this basically. So it's going to monitor all the files in our SaaS application. So any SaaS application that the organization is using, it could be a Microsoft SaaS application or even a third-party application now. You'll be able to see everything under the investigation for the user. Then what else can we see? So under the Microsoft 365, if you click on this, so this also takes me to the Microsoft Entra account settings. If I click on that, so it takes me to the Azure portal where I'm able to see the Entra settings for the user. So if there are any settings that has been configured for the user, unfortunately, the user is also the global admin, so I won't be able to do anything to this user. So you're telling me that there's an MFA status that is capable of 4 authentication method enabled for this user is available. Then it also tells me also that there are signing details for the user. So I'm able to see, okay, this user is confirmed compromised. I'm able to click on, let me click on the risky information. So this actually still takes me to the Entra ID identity protection, where I'm able to say, okay, this user, okay, do I want this user to reset password? I'll be able to select these. Do I want to confirm that this user is compromised, or I want to confirm that this user is safe? So because it's a testing I'm doing, so I can click on that to confirm, or I want to dismiss the user risks completely. I'll be able to do that as well. Then also, if I want to block the user after confirming that this user is actually compromised, I want to block this user, maybe let the user change the password so that the user cannot continue whatever they are doing at the moment. I will also be able to do that for the user. First things. All right. So these are some of the things I can do, right? Some of the actions I can take. Again, entities are clickable, and every entity that is not an alert is expandable, like I said, using the expand icon. And selecting an entity, what it does is that it switches the context of the detail pane to this entity. So because I've selected this entity, which is user account, now if I go back here, anything you select, it changes this pane for you. Anything I select here, maybe I select, let me see something that is clickable here again. If I select this, for example, now, it's going to change to that IP. So the details I'll be seeing will be related to this IP itself, and I'll be able to see other settings. Okay, I want to investigate this in activity log. I want to go on, if you come down, I want to view all incidents. So anything that you select there will actually change what you have in this detail pane, and it will allow you to review further information and manage that particular entity. So selecting the 3 ellipses here also gives you option to either you tune in or you ask Defender Expert, which are the Microsoft Defender experts, right? So, and it also does something by, let me go back to go back to, these are the details on these, and go back to manage alerts. To go back to alerts, then a particular alerts. So this gives you the same thing, whether it is for the IP or you've gone into a particular entity. Go into this entity. Click on this. So this gives you, so these three ellipses always gives you additional details, or it will reveal all actions that are available for that particular entity for you. And it's actually the same for different pain. So depending on what's the entity, the focus on the entity, that's actually what gets basically the actions I can take on that entity. Now, how do you take action from this detail pane? That's the next thing we want to look at. So for this, once you select an entity of interest, like let me select this is my entity of interest, for example. Now, once you select it, the detail pane changes to display the information about the selected entity, like I mentioned. And there is if you go down, there is historical information, right, when it is available, and it offers control to take action on this entity directly from this alert page. So if there's anything you need to do with this, you're able to take direct actions, right, for the entity. And once you are done with your investigation, like I mentioned, you can go back to the alerts that you started with. So you go back the X. So this is the alert that we started with, and you can mark the alert status as a result. So let's see, I've checked this. Let me go back to this. Let me do this risky. Let me confirm user safe for you first. See yes. So I perform an action there. After performing the action, I can go back to the alert itself. Once I click on it, I can go mark it as result. So, but already, because I already assigned this alert to this user, let me select classification. Let me assign to myself, which is not best practice though, because I'm the one that is changing status to result. The user is safe. Right, then click on save. All right, so you get the notification that it has been changed. So if I go back to the alert, once I go back to the alerts, you notice that the alert is no longer showing here. Why? Because based on status here, it is only new and in progress that I selected here. So if I need to see those alerts that is resolved, I'll select this one that says resolved and apply. So it's going to show me all alerts that are actually resolved. So this was the alert here. Okay, that's not populated here for me yet. Let me see for the last activity. Let me refresh this. So basically, either you resolve it or can also classify it as either it is false positive or a true alert. So what classifying alert does is that it helps you tune this capability to provide more true and fewer false alerts too. So if an alert is false positive, for example, now, and you tell Microsoft it's false positive, so it's fine-tune the AI and the machine learning that I mentioned, right? With that, you'll be able to, then why the alert is not showing. Let me increase it to as 20 days. I'll see it somewhere down. I'll go by sort ascending. See sort descending. So the letter is actually supposed to be up. So maybe for some reason it has not come yet. Populate. Check whether it will populate later. So, like I mentioned, classifying the alerts helps you to tune the capability to provide more true alerts and fewer false positive. So if you classify it as true alerts, you can also select a determination. And if you are experiencing the false alerts with maybe any line of business application that you have, you can also create a suppression rule to avoid this type of alerts in the future. Do you have any questions so far? Is everything that is saying clear to you so far?
Yes, it's clear. Very
All
clear.
right. Okay. Now let's go back to the slide. Now, working with automatic alert destruction. So with automatic alert destruction, when the automatic alert destruction takes effect, the automatic actions uses a visual queue across the following experience, either for the incident queue, which is a tag tied to alert destruction next to the affected incident, or an incident page, there'll be a tag tied to alert destruction. So because this is not a production environment, we'll not be able to see, a lot of these things. But basically, you're going to see this yellow banner here. Sorry. You're going to see this yellow banner. Right, that's actually on the top of the page that says important, the potential compromised account was automatically disabled. So this, you'll be able to go to the action center to view more information and the current asset status in the incident graph if an action is done on an asset. So the current status of that asset, you're going to see it the moment you go to this action center. We'll be going to the action center later in this course. Now, so we've actually mentioned this. So I mentioned that you can actually investigate alerts. You can update incident management information, view all related information, or jump to investigation page for the associated data. So it's basically everything we'll be talking about since. So, and another thing you can do for this alerts now, we'll talk about later and attack simulators is another thing you can also use to generate incidents, for purpose of demonstration. With that attack simulator, you can do that as well. Then let's see next. So for automatic investigation. Now for our automatic investigation, it's very important that a security operation teams receive an alert whenever or Microsoft or Defender detects a malicious or a suspicious artifact from an endpoint, right? Why? Because security operations teams, they face challenges in addressing the multitude of alerts that arises from seemingly never-ending flow of threats. Because these threat actors are smarter and smarter. So you'll be seeing different, alert pattern. And Microsoft Defender for Endpoint includes what we call automated investigation and remediation, AIR, capabilities that can help your security operations team address threats more efficiently and effectively. Now, the technology in automated investigation uses various inspection algorithms and is based on processes that are used by security analysts. Now, the AIR capabilities, that's automatic investigation response, they are designed to examine alerts and also take immediate action to resolve breaches. And the AIR capability significantly reduces the alert volumes, allowing security operations to focus more on sophisticated threats and other high-value initiatives. Now, there's a place called the Action Center. We're going to see that shortly. The Action Center keeps track of all the investigation that were initiated automatically, along with details such as investigation status, detection source, or any pending or completed action. So how does automated investigation start? So when an alert is triggered, a security playbook goes into effect. So depending on the security playbook, an automated investigation can start. For example, suppose a malicious file resides on a device. When that file is detected, an alert is triggered and the automated investigation process begins. And the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint checks to see if the malicious file is present in any other devices in the organizations. Now, the details of the from the investigation, which include verdicts, either it is malicious, suspicious, or nutrient funds, are actually available during and after the automated investigation. Now, basically, so what are the details of automated investigation? The first one, so during and after an automated investigation, you can always view the detail about the investigation. By selecting the triggering alert to view the investigation details. From there, you can go to the investigation graph, alert for devices, for evidence, entity, and logs. Now, what alert does is that that's the start of the investigation. Then for device is where the threats are seen, while the evidence are entities that are found to be malicious during investigations. Then the entities, right, is the details about each analyzed entity, including a determination for each entity type. Maybe it is malicious, suspicious, or there's no threat. Then for logs like the a chronological detailed view of all investigation actions taken on alerts. Then if there are pending actions, so if there's any actions, right, awaiting approval as a result of the investigation, the pending action tab is displayed on the pending action, right? And you can approve or reject each action based on what you want. Now, how does automated investigation start, right? If you want to get a scope, if you're trying to expand the scope now. So while investigation is running, any other alerts that is generated from the device are actually added to an ongoing automated investigation until the investigation is complete. And in addition, if the same threat is seen on maybe other devices, then what happens is that those devices are also added to the investigation. And if an incremented entity is seen in another device, the automated investigation process expands its scope automatically to include that device, and a general security playbook starts on that device. So if maybe you have 10 or more devices are found during this expansion from this process from the same entity, then that expansion action requires approval and is visible on the pending action tab. So that's how automated investigation expand its scope. Now, if you want to check how are threats remediated, for example, now for threat remediation, as alerts are triggered and an automated investigation runs, a verdict is generated for each piece of evidence investigated. Verdicts can be malicious, suspicious, or no threat found. And as verdicts are reached, automated investigation can result in one or more remediation actions, right? Examples of remediation actions include maybe sending a file to quarantine, stopping a service, or removing a scheduled task, and more. So depending on the level of automation set for your organization, right? Other security settings, remediation action can occur automatically or only upon approval by your security operations teams. And other security settings that can affect automatic remediations include maybe protection from potentially unwanted application. Let's quickly jump into, before we look at the number 5. Okay, let's look at automation levels in automated investigation and remediation capability. Now, for automated investigation and remediation capability in the Microsoft Defender for endpoints, it can be configured to one of several levels of automations. So your automation levels affect whether a remediation actions follows the AIR investigations are taken automatically or upon approval. Now, there's what called full automation, which is actually recommended by Microsoft at 3 levels. Now, the full automation means remediation actions are taken automatically on artifacts determined to be malicious. Now, there is another one called semi-automations. This means that some remediation actions are taken automatically, but other remediation actions await approval before being taken. Now, all remediation actions, whether pending or completed, are tracked in the Action Center. Let's quickly go to the Action Center and see. Now, if you go to Actions and Submission here, you will see Action Center here. Now, if you see under pending, there is nothing pending here. Like I mentioned, this is not a production insight. If any in a production instance, for example, now there will be a lot of pending, right? Based on the what has been set. You check history. Let's see if you have any. So no automated remediation has actually happened on this tenant. But again, this is actually where you see it. Let me see the last 30 days. Let's see if you have anything. Okay, in the last 6 months, it's tenant of 6 months. All right, let me see pending also. Custom colon. Yeah, we don't have anything pending. So let's go to history then. In the last 6 months. Now we can see that if I click on this, it says that there is a soft delete. All right. So you see malicious email is up. That's the name. So it gives me a URN and this number, right? And it tells me that investigation, there's an investigation ID is completed and terminated by the system. Now, if you look at this investigation graph, for example, now that's the first thing you see. So this investigation graph, the summary is actually what is here, investigation summary here, the status timeline. So it tells me that this thing started August 22nd, 2024 by 7:42 a.m. and it's ended August 29. So the duration is the difference between these two, which is 7 days, and the total pending time was 20 days. Now, if you check investigation detail, so it was terminated by system, and the alert severity is informational, right? And the categories threat management, and the data source is Defender for Office 365. Now, since the alert was generated from Defender for Office 365 because an email message was removed after delivery, so if I click on this, it takes me to the alert itself. So that's the alert. Email message was removed after delivery and is informational. So it tells me the status is in progress, then the categories are probing, then it tells me the source service, which is MDO and investigation state. So it's terminated by the system. Was it assigned to anybody? It wasn't assigned. Let's go back to the investigation graph. Now, if I click on this, it takes me to the logs that are available. So I'll be able to see all the different logs that are available between the time that it started and the time it ended. So it tells me that I have a sender domain investigation, right? I'm able to see, okay, the status, it was completed, right? When was it created? When was the execution started? How long did it take? 55 seconds. Then what is the description? An on-demand check for domain reputation from Microsoft ISG and external threat intelligence source. So I'll be able to see all the logs. So at the moment, there are 15 logs based on this particular alert, right? That was automatically investigated and response to. Let's go back to the investigation graph. I click on this. So this takes me to the entities, right? The entities that are actually pertaining to this particular alert. Now I can see that I have three entities here and 4 evidences. The first entity is email. Now with this, I'll be able to say, okay, there was a malicious email, that's what it's saying, which was delivered. So that means is the subject of the email. It tells me here, Git of Enterprise for MVP. Who sent the email? So the person that sent the email, who was the recipient? How was the recipient here? So it was automatically the system, Microsoft Defender for Endpoints automatically, removed. There was an automation remediation that happens here. Then I'm able to see another entity, which was the IP address. So it tells me that for the IP address, there is actually no threat found. It's only the email that contains the malicious, right? Then for the email clusters, right? Under the email clusters, still under the entity. So it tells you that there was a malicious which was prevented. What is the mail cluster name? I'm able to see it here. The threat is an high confidence fish, email counts, email accounts, then it's able to give me other additional details here. You don't need to go into that here. Just for you to understand that this is able to provide entities, then evidence here. So if you go back here and click on this.
Alpha.
And click on this. You're on mute.
You go see Okada now. Wait.
You're on mute, Abdul.
You go see Okada. Just wait.
Abdul, you're talking on mute.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know my mic. So my mic was on mute.
No worries, it's fine. Yeah, so if I click on this, I'm able to see the evidence, right? So it gives me a lot of details about the automated. So what is important is that the action center is where you'll be able to see that, and the investigation graph will actually basically directed you. So it says that this guy actually waited for approval for 20 days. Investigation waited for user approval to perform the following action, right? To soft delete email. So it was waiting for an approval, but there was no checks on it. So what happens that it automatically timed out. When it timed out, then the automatic remediation happened. But ideally, while it was waiting for approval, that's when under the action center and it was in the pending state, it will be showing here that is an approval waiting here. Is an approval waiting. Maybe I will do a repro or what you can do for your tenants and try to send a malicious code, right, to a particular user in the tenant and see maybe automation will happen and you'll be able to see that here. Okay, let's go back. So we mentioned there are levels of automations, right? Mention that at the point when we have full remediations, like it remediates threats automatically. So call it full automations. So with full automations, remediation actions are performed automatically, and all remediation actions are taken can be viewed in the action center on the history tabs. So if necessary, a remediation action can be undone. So if necessary, then for the semi required approval, which for automation, we call it semi-automation, right? So with this level of semi-automations, approval is required for an immediate action, such as pending actions can be viewed and approved in the action centers in the pending tab, like you saw. Then for the semi-required approval for core files and folder remediations. So for this, now with this level of semi-automation, approval is actually required for any remediations action needed on files, right? That's talking about the important point about the automation level now. So it needed on files or executables that are actually in the core folders. So core folders will include maybe the operating system directory, such as your Windows folder. And also remediation actions can also be taken automatically on files or executables that are in other non-core folders. Then also pending actions for files or executable in a core folder can be viewed and approved in the Action Center on the pending tab. Then actions that were taken on files or executables in other folder can be viewed also in the Action Center. Then there is semi-required approval for a non-temp folders remediation. Now, it's also called it's a type of semi-automation now. So with this level of semi-automation, approval is actually required for any remediation action needed on files or executables that are not in the temporary folder. Now, temporary folder can include the following. Maybe folder that's in user, app data, then location, then temp, or document and settings, Docker settings. You know those temporary folder that are always hidden in your files. So if you go to any of them, so any of those temporary folder, it could even be your program file or program file x86. Let me quickly show you some of them. Second. So if you go to this PC, for example, right? So you go to program files, users, then you go to your app data, select user account. You should see an app data, which sometimes is always hidden. So there's a ways to bring out the hidden folder, right? Let's go back to like the program files, for example. Now, these program files, these are folders that are not in the temporal folder. All these phones, then even if you go to the program file x86 also, then if you go to your documents and settings, then users also. So generally, the remediation actions, right, can be taken automatically on files or executable that are in a temporary folder. Then pending actions for files or executable that are not in the temporary folders that can be viewed and they can be approved in the action centers on the pending tab. So the pending tab is something that, or a place that a SOC analyst needs to actually, be checking. Now, actions that we're taking on files or executables on temporary folders can be viewed and also approved in the action center. Then a situation whereby there is no automated response, which is another level, which is a no automation. Now, with no automation, the automated investigation doesn't run on your organization device. So as a result, no remediations actions are taken or pending as a result of the automated investigations. However, other threat protection features, such as protection from potentially unwanted application, can be in effect depending on how your antivirus or your next generation protection features are configured. So using the non-automation option is not actually recommended because it reduces the security posture of the organization's device. So you consider setting up your organization automation level to full automation or at least to semi automation. So full automation has actually proven to be reliable, effective, and safe, and is recommended for all customers that uses Microsoft 365 Defender XDR, right? So full automations frees up your critical security resources so that they can focus on more strategic and initiatives. And if your security team has they've defined a device group with a level of automation, those settings are not changed by the new default settings that have been rolled out, basically. Now, so we saw the action center earlier. Let me bring it back up. The action center, we saw it earlier. Now, what is basically this action center really all about? What is this action center really all about? Now, the action center, Microsoft calls it a unified action center of the Microsoft Defender portal. So what it does that it lists pending and completed remediations, right? Actions for your device, your emails, and collaboration content, and identities in one location. So the action center is like it's like an hub for everything, things around your devices, things around your emails, and your collaboration content. Then as well as identity. So the unified action center brings together remediations across Defender for endpoint and Defender for Office 365, right? Because when you talk about device, you're talking about endpoint. When you talk about emails and collaboration content, you're talking about Defender for Office 365, then identity, which is the Microsoft Entra ID protection. So this action center defines a common language for all remediations actions, and it provides a unified investigation experience. So your security operations team, they will have a single pane of glass experience to view and manage all types of investigation. Now let's click on this investigation, for example, now. So before that, you can see that the Action Center has just two tabs, the pending tabs and also the history tabs. Those are the two tabs now. Now, the pending tabs, what it does is it displays a list of ongoing investigations that requires your attention, right? Then recommended actions are also presented that your SOC team can approve or reject. And the pending term appears only if there is pending actions to be approved or rejected. So if there is nothing to be approved or rejected, you are not going to see anything in the pending term. While for the history tab, is actually it acts as an audit log for all the following items, either the items that remediation actions that were taken as a result of automated investigation, or remediation action that were approved by your security operations team. So some actions such as maybe sending a file to quarantine can actually be undone from this folder, which is the history folder. Then commands that were run and remediation action that were applied in live response session. And this sometimes some actions can actually be undone. Then also another item is remediation action that will apply by Microsoft Defender antivirus, and some actions also can actually be undone. So like let's say, for example, now this email now, let me click on this investigation ID, right? So maybe probably I feel that this email, right, is actually a good email. This email is actually a good email, for example now. So I have a pending action history here. If I select this now, right? Let me click on this. So that is the email itself. It's loading up. So I have the option go on here. Then I have the details. So it's malicious. It's coming from the subject GitHub Enterprise for MVPs. It was delivered, the sender, the recipient. So attachments, there were attachments to it. So that's all of the attachments, right, to the email. I'm able to see this following attachment. Then if there are URLs, I'm able to see the URLs and the threads. So these are some of the URLs and the threads, which I feel not all of them are actually, threads per se. But if you hover over it, you're able to see where the URL is taking you to. You're able to see that. Then if you go down, you see the original delivery location. It was actually quarantine. The latest delivery location was still quarantine. So the threats, Zapfish and also high confidence fish, the network ID, right? I'm able to see the direction and it's an inbound. So if I want to view more details about the email, I can click on that. So this will take me into a portal talking about investigation. It takes me to portal on my emails and collaborations. So it brought me here actually the investigation. So I'm able to see what happened to that email. So by the time we talk about email collaboration very well, we'll be able to, discuss more about this. But let's go back to this. Then I have the option to go on, which is our next thing we're going to do. Our next class, talking about advanced hunting. So it's bringing me to advanced hunting here. So this is advanced hunting here. I'll talk about advanced hunting now. So I don't want to go into that for now. So let's still focus on actions center for now. So when an automated investigation runs, basically a verdict is generated for each piece of evidence that is investigated, and the verdict can also be malicious, suspicious, or no threat, depending on the type of the threat, the resulting verdict, and also how your organization device group are actually configured. And remediation actions can occur automatically, or like I said, only upon approval by your organization security operations team. Now, adding B, there was a pending action here. For pending action, basically, you have the option to approve or to reject a pending action. So if there was something here, in terms of approving or rejecting, all you do is that you select any of the item on the pending tab. After selecting it, you select an investigation from any of the categories to open a panel where you can approve or reject the remediation action. Unfortunately, we don't currently have any pending actions here for us to actually demo that. So other details such as files or service detail, investigation details, and also alert details are also displayed. So from the panel, you can also select the open investigation page. So the link to see the investigation details, and you can also select multiple investigations to approve or reject on multiple investigations. Another thing you can do is that on review and completion action, to review the ones that have been completed, that's talking about the history here. So if need be, you can expand the time period to display more data, like what we did here. We have to expand to 6 months, so we can have more data here. Then you can select an item to view more details about the remediation action. So earlier we viewed that. I can view this again to see what are the remediation actions that were performed on the AR. So we have the alerts again. So the evidences are here. Then pending actions also are here. So because it has passed, it's automatically, it's automatically actually carried out its action. Now, to undo any completed actions, right? Maybe when you determine that the device or the file is not a threat, you can actually undo any remediation actions that were taken, whether those actions that were taken automatically or manually. So we can undo any of the following action. Maybe the source is talking about automated investigation, like we're seeing, or the source is actually Microsoft Defender Antivirus, or there is a manual response actions. You can undo them. Then also for supported actions, you can either isolate the device or you restrict code execution, or you quarantine a file, or you also remove a registry key. You can also stop the service or disable a driver or remove a scheduled task. So these are some of the things you can actually do in terms of when you want to undo any completed actions based on what you have under the history tab here. Then if you want to remove file from quarantine across multiple devices, so what you can do is that you can still on this history tab, you can select a file that has the action type quarantine. So if you go through here, I'm not sure I have any action type quarantine. So the action type here is automated email actions, right? The entity is talking about emails here. Then status is skipped. So the action type that we have here is sub delete. So when you have any action types, right, that talks about quarantine here under this history, you actually have you can remove that across multiple devices. So what happens is that if Academy we have that, for example, like you click on it, right? So what opens on the right pane automatically? You have the option to apply X for more instances of this file. Then you select undo, basically. Lastly, if you need to view action source details for any of these automated investigation response. Now, the action center also include the action source column, which tells you where the actions come from. For example, if you scroll to the right here, you're seeing the action source here. So this tells me that the two action sources are automated email actions, automated email actions. Now, if you have an action source that talks about maybe manual device action, for example, now for manual device action taken on devices, maybe you isolate a device or a file was quarantined, for example, now. So those are like manual device action under the action source. Then for manual email action, a manual email action is actually taken on email. An example includes maybe a soft delete email message or remediating an email message. So that's a manual. Then we have another one called the automated divide action. Now for automated action taken on entity, such as a file or a process, examples of automated actions, which include sending files to quarantine or stopping a process or removing a registry key. So those ones we call them automated device actions. Now for the one we have here, which is the automated email actions. Now, so an automated email action is actually taking on email content, such as an email message, attachment, or URL. We saw that earlier when we opened that, you're able to see different attachments and also different URLs. So any automated emails actions could include a soft delete, which we saw here under the action type, a soft delete or blocking of URLs or turning off external email forwarding. So these are some of the action type that can happen for the automated email action. Then we have another one called advanced hunting action. So any action you take on devices or email with advanced hunting. So in our future class, we talk about advanced hunting, where we'll be able to get more details about that. Then we have another action type called Explorer action. Now, those are actions taken on email content and with Explorer. Then we have the schedule types. Those are like a manual life response action. Then lastly on that, we have the live response action. Now, these are actions taken on device with Microsoft Defender for endpoint APIs. Examples of actions could include isolating the device, or you're running an antivirus scan, or you're trying to get an information about a file. So these are some of the different action types that are available for us. Do you have any questions so far? Any questions so far?
No, no questions.
All right. So we'll look at the second part of the Action Center, because Action Center actually contains both the Action Center and also the submission, right? So we'll be looking at starting our discussion with submissions. I hope this Action Center is quite clear for you. And once we talk about submission, then we'll be performing advanced hunting. So in your environment, you can just, check things around alerts in details as we look at, then check your action centers. The action centers, you can check if you have any pending actions. Never can tell, you can have. Then you can also check histories. Then don't forget to change the time range to last 6 months to see whether or not you're going to get information about it. All right.